joined by Tom Huisman, the new Athletic Director from UBCO. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So, you've taken over a sports program that has had some recent challenges. I mentioned before the interview that I was going to take my daughter to see a basketball game, and then I looked at the scores that team was suffering, and I thought maybe we shouldn't go. So you've got some challenges right off the bat.
For sure, there are some challenges, which makes any new job and opportunity exciting. And so with the basketball, we're optimistic that we're rebuilding and hit a bit of a reset button over the summer, and are looking forward to seeing where those two programs can go moving forward. We've got two new head coaches with those programs. Ken Olynyk, who's no stranger to a basketball community, his son playing in the NBA,
Yeah.
and then Bobby Mitchell, who's no stranger to people in the Okanagan, who's got a long history of club and high school credentials behind him, as well as being an assistant coach with our program for a number of years. So we're very much looking forward to seeing where those programs are headed in the very near future.
So, how important is winning? When you come here, tell me a little bit about what your overall goals are and how important having winning programs is.
Yeah, so for me personally, I really like banners. I like winning, but winning isn't the be-all and the end-all. Really, one of the objectives I have and one of the goals I have, and the job description, so to speak, with an athletic director is to create an environment for your varsity teams so that they can be the best that they can be. And so really my job is to create that environment of excellence for those teams to be able to be as competitive as they can be. And with the coaches and the players that they recruit, ideally, all of those things come together. You get a little bit of good luck along the way, and you're a competitive team that's vying for playoffs, conference championships, and like our women's volleyball team has done for a number of years, being a regular nationally contending team across the entire country. So winning's important, but the process is what gets you there.
So how is it possible with a student population of around 10,000 competing against teams like UBC Point Grey with about 5 times the number of students? Is there a template for success?
I'm not sure if there's a template for success. Otherwise, all the small schools would just be able to follow it. But for sure, I mean, there are some disadvantages. I mean, obviously, the bigger schools have bigger alumni, a lot more tradition and history than we do, and their budgets typically can be a lot larger. Having said that, though, there's a lot of advantages to being a smaller population-based school, and there's no reason why a smaller school and program can't be as competitive as the big boys and girls out there in the other universities. So I'm optimistic that we can do that, and the women's volleyball program here at UBCO has demonstrated that for a number of years on a sustained basis. So
right, you have some advantages. It's a pretty nice community to live in. Obviously, they were able to recruit you, and is sort of the whole sort of lifestyle of Kelowna a real advantage in terms of recruiting? I
really think so. I mean, international airport that's right by the university, which is appealing to families if people are coming from out of town. The climate, the area of the Okanagan is very appealing, and the intimate nature, not just of the institution, but of Kelowna itself. It's not a big metropolis city. Everything about, I think, the area is quite intimate and friendly, and I think that's something that we definitely can be using to our advantage when we're trying to recruit students from afar. But as well, I've been pleasantly surprised at the level of athletic talent in the Okanagan in general, so across a number of sports. And so as much as we want to be able to recruit those outside, blue chip student athletes, there's also a lot of local talent that we want to be able to recruit to stay here, to be a part of our programs and the success that we're optimistic that we'll have.
Right. So you mentioned volleyball. So there is something to kind of build on there, but something like the basketball program, it must be difficult if there isn't really some positive momentum to start with. So how do you kind of kickstart that? How do you talk a player into joining a program that really struggled the previous year? Give us the sales pitch that you would put on a good young athlete.
Yeah, well, I think that what we do with them is to be able to sell them on everything that we offer. And when you're looking at prospective student athletes, it is a lot about what you can offer on the court. So your coaching leadership needs to be fantastic, and I think on both fronts we've established a good core of coaching leadership that can help move the programs forward. But then as well, it's all the support and services around the athletics that you can offer up. And so from the kind of residence spaces that you have for first year students, academic advising, we are very well supported at the institution to ensure that our student athletes have a lot of supports to be able to ensure their success both on the court but as well in the classroom. And you put all of those things together with the environment that we are, the Kelowna being what it is, you put all those things together and you pitch them on what the future is. Because in university sport, there's the athletes will rotate. They only have a shelf life of 5 years of eligibility,
right?
And so things can change around, and
pretty quickly.
Yeah. So even though you might only have a couple, might have had a couple of bad years previously, there's nothing to say that in a few years' time you can be contending for a national championship.
Right, and in a sport like basketball or volleyball, there's only 5 or 6 players on the playing surface at one time. It doesn't take a lot of great players to turn things around.
Exactly, but you need to get those great players and a complement of players around them to make the most of that. And as long as you have some depth, in your lineup and on your bench, then there's no reason why you can't be as competitive as the biggest schools. Because as you say, there's only 5 or 6 athletes on the floor, and you got an equal number on the bench, and why can't ours be as competitive as anybody else's?
And getting some winning programs going, does that matter for the overall school? Is there a sort of a purpose to that, a sense of community, something to rally around?
For sure. I think if a lot of studies have been done across the country. I used to work with in the national office. And I mean, it varies from school to school, but quite often athletics is the most prominent and most recognized component of a school, because it's what's appearing in all of the in the sports pages and gets a lot of coverage. And so in a lot of ways, a strong athletics program is a very large recruitment piece and awareness tool for any institution. And the more you can, if you're winning, that just helps feed that element to just continue to contribute to the overall purpose of the institution.
So it would even perhaps attract more students who are strictly there for the academics once you get an overall sort of upbeat atmosphere brought about by sports teams.
Exactly.
So there was a homecoming that was going to be happening for the first time. That sounds like an American term. Or I think has that already occurred?
So it was just this past weekend. So it was our first homecoming for UBCO. I mean, our oldest graduates are maybe 28, 29 years old, because we're still relatively new. So it was a huge success, I think, especially for our first time. The weather couldn't have been any better for it. So for our part, we had a homecoming game where the two UBC campuses met on the soccer pitch. So our guys came up a little bit short, but it was still a fantastic event and game. And so that was exciting. And so I'm optimistic that the institution will continue to have homecoming moving forward. And I mean, it's something that's at all other institutions, but the age of our school or our campus is such that hadn't had one before. But
right. So you have been in Winnipeg and Ottawa. This is a smaller institution than anyone you've been at for some time.
Yeah, but myself and my wife, we're kind of consider ourselves small town folks, and we like the big centers. But even when we were in Ottawa, we were living just outside of Ottawa. And so although UBCO is a smaller institution and Kelowna is a bit of a smaller community, relatively speaking to, like a Vancouver or Ottawa itself, that kind of fits well with who I am and with, my family and my wife as well. So that all fits really well. And so I like that size. Like that to me, that's very appealing.
Okay, so we're recording this interview on a Thursday. We're probably going to put it out on Friday. So it's Friday now.
Friday.
Through the magic of time travel. So tonight, Friday night, there's some volleyball that people can go check out. Is that right?
Yeah, so both our men's and women's teams are having their home openers against Trinity Western University this weekend. So Friday we've got games. The women's, I guess not tip off, but they serve off at 6 o'clock, and the guys go at 8 o'clock. So that's the home opener for the regular season. They've already started their season. They started it on the road last weekend in Alberta, but now's the regular season home openers. The basketball season's also open up this weekend, and coincidentally, our two basketball teams are playing at Trinity Western to open up their seasons, but then they're back next weekend with their home openers. And so, but this weekend we're pushing the volleyball and hoping it's the start of a strong season and a return to playoffs and hopefully a national championship tournament appearance again for, if not just one, perhaps even both teams.
Terrific. We're probably to the end of our time. Anything else you wanted to mention?
The only thing I'd mention, just building on our homecoming, we were really excited. RBC was a big promoter and sponsor of the homecoming, and they had announced over the weekend that they're sponsoring our athletic scholarship breakfast that happens in April every spring. And so we were really excited about their announcement. And I think that just speaks to some of the momentum that we're starting to experience across a number of avenues, and with RBC coming on in such a big way for that, we're excited for that and a lot of the positive developments that are taking place, and so really looking forward to a great season.
So do you think we can see more winning teams now that you've arrived with the coaching you've got in place?
Well, we've already started pretty well. Our women's golf team just picked up national bronze medals a week ago in golf, so that's pretty exciting. And the fact that two of those young ladies were rookies, Samantha Copeland and Rebecca Rietzma, and just a third year in McKenna Lesiak, who were on the team. So they're hopefully going to have some sustained success, and why can't the other teams just continue to pick up that momentum and roll with it through the year?
Sounds great. Well, we'll bring you back in a little while, maybe 6 months or a year, and see how you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Tom Huisman, the new athletic director at UBCO, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.